it's kind of interesting, not to me mostly. By the way, you'll get the idea. I'm a pretty humble and unassuming fella. A lot of confidence, but nobody's more important than the next guy. So anyway, as we move forward, you'll get to know a little bit more about me. Now, the first thing I can remember as far as a career goes is I wanted to be a theoretical physicist of all things. This was from the time I was in 5th grade and I read a book about Albert Einstein. Now, I don't know if it was so much that or the fact that my best buddy when I was a kid was named Al. It was something to do with that, but I always liked science. I always liked the idea of teaching. So hopefully this is kind of coming full circle with that, with the teaching part of it. I found out in college that theoretical physics was not going to be my bag because I'm bad at math. And from what I hear, you need that. You need that skill. I really didn't have it, or that natural affinity or talent. Didn't have it. So anyway, we found our way into sales, and it took a little bit of time to get into automotive sales. My folks had owned a lighting store, so I started with residential lighting sales, and I was having a beer with a buddy of mine, and we had catching up, and I found out he sold cars, and he said, well, you should come apply. I said, okay, that sounds great, sounds very interesting. So I did, and I asked him the day later, how did I do in the interview? He said, you did great, just lose the earring. And so I did. This is 1991, mind you, and so it began. Kind of funny how things again come full circle is I had an interview with the general sales manager in his office in 1991 for that very first job in this business. And 19 years later, I would have that same office as general sales manager in that facility. So it's kind of interesting how things do happen. At any rate, I spent 8 years at that store. The first 3 or 4, I was kind of trying to find my way. It was a stopgap, I thought. I wanted to do other things, I thought. And I didn't really take it seriously that much, I knew. And finally, the switch went on for me. And I believe that happens with a lot of sales consultants. Hamilton Sales Training is going to help us do that. Be on a walk-on helps you do that. So it went on for me, and then I discovered I wanted to be a little bit more influential as far as sales process goes. Now, the only way to do that is to move up the ladder, get into management, and that was the reason I did it. Didn't need a title, it wasn't for money, it was for influence. How could I help affect change in the sales process, make it better for the sales consultants, and close more car deals? So that was the beginning. That was part of the origin of Hamilton Sales Training way back then. So I went to another facility in 1998, and then 1999, and was promoted to floor manager after a few months at a Hyundai store. The structure in this store was a little bit different. I haven't seen it since. There was a general manager, there was a finance manager, and there was me, and there were 6 sales consultants. Well, the way it was set up, the floor manager basically managed the sales consultants. And one of the things is he closed, or she closed, every car deal. And that was in the job description. The sales consultant does the first part, meet and greet, needs assessment, presentation, demonstration, gets to a trial closed, you have a commitment, we're ready to do paperwork or numbers. And the general manager will go ahead and desk the deal. Who presents the numbers? I do. So I was looking at this thing, I go, you mean I have to close all of these people? Well, yep, that's how you get paid, that's your job. Okay. And the store did about 90 or 100 cars new and used. So it was pretty good for the staff that it had. And we were very productive. But it kind of, again, sparked that passion in me for closing. And we were just getting into the internet back in 1999, so the customers had more information. Well, how am I going to overcome that? How am I going to, I didn't know counter transition close back then. I hadn't thought about it. And, how am I going to get to these people and sell more cars? Well, I came up with a couple of ideas, that developed over the years. But one of them was complimenting them on doing their research. Would expect it no other way. But again, allowing the customer to be comfortable. It was customer comfort, consultant confidence. That was developed back then, and we moved forward. I wasn't at that position too long because I was learning finance at the same time. And Frank Phillips, sorry to mention your name if you didn't want it to be mentioned, but I am forever grateful for what you taught me in the world of F&I. And thank you so much for that. And I'll tell you what, he taught me so much in a short period of time I don't think anybody else could have. And worked out really well for me and the background that I do have. So thank you, Frank, for that. But moving forward, they promoted me to the F&I department in the main store. The main store of the complex was doing 300 cars a month. This was back before you had to enter things 4 and 5 times, it seems like. So, I did 125, 140 deliveries in a month, which is way too much, particularly right now. but it was baptism by storm. I learned a lot very quickly. But then I was moved to the Ford desk, so desk manager. Then I was moved to the new and used car manager at another facility. So I kept progressing upwards too quickly. I was immature, hadn't developed a good management style. It was pretty heavy-handed because that's what I was taught, and didn't work as well. And I needed to reinvent myself because that came to the ascension came to a screeching halt, so to speak. But I found myself as a used car manager in 2002 at a Saturn facility. And you talk about reinventing yourself or doing something different. This is a very laid-back environment. Non-negotiation, consultative process. And I'm used to mandatory TOs. So here I did 3 appraisals my very first day, or very first morning. And I see the sales consultants walking around without their customers. I'm like, where'd your customers go? Oh, they weren't ready to do anything yet. Okay. I had to get used to that, and that's kind of the way certain things were. And there are still stores, obviously, that don't require a TO. There's stores that you better, or you're getting sent home. But anyway, so we spent 3 years as a used car manager, learned a ton, then went 5 years as a new car manager there. And during the new car manager time, I wanted to help increase, obviously, our new car business. And there's a couple of schools of thought on a Saturn consultant because it's not a negotiation. All they are is order takers, right? All they have to do is write down what the customer wants. It's not a negotiation. It is what it is. That's not necessarily true. They have to be very good at product. They have to be very good at presentation. They have to be very good at explaining the philosophy and why it's best for the customer. And that is something that they excel at. What they had an issue with was asking for the business. So they would do everything properly and then, okay, have a nice day. Well, why don't you just ask them to buy the car? Well, I don't know if I feel comfortable doing that. Okay, well, you're going to have to as an effective elite sales consultant. So let's get a little bit better at that. And that's where we came up with, why don't we go ahead and continue with the paperwork then? Because if you say that to a customer, why don't we go ahead and continue with the paperwork, they are buying the car and they know it. So that started to be developed. Along that time, also, the idea for you don't have to say no was developed. And that was my very first program. Absolute marketing catastrophe, so I talk about my failures as well. Because it was brand specific and time sensitive. Oops. Because not too much after its introduction, Saturn went out of business. It was a very unfortunate, tragic event that could have been avoided, by the way, General Motors, but that's okay. We'll talk about that at another time, maybe. So anyway, we developed a thing called You Don't Have to Say No, because every time the customer would ask, can I have a discount? Can I have 500 off? Will you do this for me? Will you do that for me? Consultants found themselves saying no, 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 no. Well, that's not a really good sales environment. Customers don't like to hear that. So we created statements. Do you negotiate? Well, Saturn shows a culture that does not include negotiation. That was statement 1. We're a no hassle, no haggle environment. That's another statement. Okay, well, can you negotiate just for me, or can you take this off for me? I won't say anything or what have you. Saturn prefers to relate to the guests with integrity. Things like that would allow the sales consultants to counter these things without saying no. And our sales did improve dramatically. And these are some of the concepts that evolved into some of the things we're going to talk about with Hamilton Sales Training. So anyway, after that Saturn store closed, I was invited to work with the same group up at a Honda store. And this was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had as a sales manager. It was wonderful. The veteran staff embraced me with open arms, and really it was just fun to come to work every day. And we had to do a high volume store, so it was fast paced, just a lot of fun. I remember my second weekend there, I ran the sales meeting, or asked permission to do so, and did about a 30-minute talk on an easel, and talked about some of the similar concepts that we're developing and evolving in Hamilton Sales Training. And it worked out just great. Now, things progress, and unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but it was a great opportunity. 2.5 months later, I get a phone call inviting me back to that store in 2010 as general sales manager, with the promise that I have full control over the sales staff and the sales process, and it's me, nobody will bother me, I can do whatever I want. Wonderful. It happened to be a reinstatement facility, so we were charged with obviously maintaining that brand, and that worked out very, very well. Within a year, we had that secured, and things were looking very good. Now we can get back to business as normal and trying to grow the business and evolve that business. But decisions were made, decisions to go a different direction or the old direction, and so we had to move. Went back to that Honda facility. I had the opportunity to do that. Things were very fortunate for me, and spent a lot of time there, and enjoyed it once again. Again, a great experience. And during that time, I was coming up with ideas. You don't have to be unprepared. A CD audio program, kind of silly title. I just didn't want to lose that "you don't have to say no" thing. So I tried to use that, but that was not the program that I ultimately wanted. But then Beyond the Walk-Around idea came to me, and I spent time writing that and doing the audio for that. And thank you so much for all of you who have purchased it, whether it be through the print version, Kindle, audio, through Audible. The feedback has been wonderful, the reviews have been glowing, and I can't say enough in gratitude to all of you that have given me that. But now we're going to progress. We're going to move forward. Now, with Hamilton Sales Training, it is going to be focused entirely on the sales consultant, and obviously managers who use this material as well. But there'll be no fixed operations, no BDC, no reception, no parts, nothing. This is just the sales end of it. No F&I. This is just for sales consultants. I want to keep it that simple. I want to keep it that focused. And that is how we're really going to evolve. And basically the mission, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, is to evolve this business by helping develop elite and professional sales consultants across the country. And we are going to do this, and we're going to change the things. This business has become a parody, in the eyes of the customer. It's a caricature. And we want to change that to the way it should be. Professional. Again, professional, very good at our job, very respectful,